Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. Can I just get a sense over here, who here has started a business or a side project? Couple of hands up. And what are the rest of you doing here? Looking for inspiration? Yes? Okay, cool. I'm going to encourage you to get going today. And in fact, this wasn't, because there's only a few people who've actually got going, I want to start with just a little anecdote that I've learned. So I work in a very fast-changing field. In particular, my company teaches businesses how to do digital marketing. And that's an incredibly challenging field because, for example, it's difficult to maintain your expertise in, for example, Facebook, if Facebook changes their timeline features every 2 weeks. It means you've got a shelf life on expertise of about a week. So you need to constantly adapt what you know and what you think you know and your offering to the public constantly, which means that you get used to being wrong most of the time. And what that has to do with you as people who haven't actually started or launched something yet is that you've got to let go of the idea of having the perfect idea from the beginning. It's much more important to refine your intention or the kind of problems that you're looking at. So in the startup world, we call this prototyping. So you've got to get into just prototyping ideas, just doing small experiments and not trying to judge the worth or the potential success in any of your projects before you've even tried launching them. We call this a Wizard of Oz or a Mechanical Turk minimum viable product approach. All right, so another of the challenges that I think that you'll face is being busy. So who here would say that you're too busy to start a business right now? Couple of hands. All right, that's not entirely unusual. And don't be ashamed of it, because university is one of the busiest times of your life. I know a friend who was in business for many years, and he came back to study undergraduate, and he was overwhelmed by the amount of work that he had going on. So it is a lot of work. But when it comes to business, how is it that some people can achieve so much more in a single day than others, given that they have the same 16 waking hours every day as the rest of us? And I would say that the reason that they can achieve so much more is because they've taken the time to clarify their vision. Someone once told me it doesn't matter how busy you are if you're working on the wrong stuff. So you can be busy, you can be running around like your hair's on fire, but if you're working on the wrong stuff, all of that effort amounts to absolutely nothing, really. So it's really, really important that if you want to be productive in the long run, that if you want to achieve more than your peers over a 1 year or 3 year or 5 year period, your advantage really comes down to something as simple as refining your vision, getting clearer than the next person on what you want to achieve, because then all of your micro actions will point in the right direction. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So when I was at UCT, a friend of mine came up to me offering to sell me a pair of shoes. In fact, he wasn't offering, he was doing market research. So this was pre-sales. And he showed me the shoes and he said, "Dave, would you buy these shoes for 200 Rand? And I looked at the shoes and they looked like good shoes. And I said, yeah, I would totally buy those shoes for 200 Rand. You know, he's an entrepreneur trying to get off the ground. I would buy those shoes for 200 Rand. So he obviously went and he asked a bunch of people, and something like 80% of the people that he asked said yes, they would buy these shoes. So he went and I think he took out all of his savings. He went and he bought a whole car full of these shoes. And I'll never forget, because he came to me about 2 weeks later when he'd made the investment, and he said, "Dave, I've got your shoes." And I said, "Whoa," I said, "I don't have bucks for shoes right now." And he said, "But you said that you'd buy the shoes." And I said, "I would buy the shoes if I wasn't broke." And I think that a lot of people did that. And I think that was probably a really hard entrepreneurial lesson, because he probably sold like 2 pairs out of 200 shoes that he bought. Honestly, I think that this guy's still got those shoes. Like 17 generations of his family are going to be wearing these shoes that were fashionable like 10 years ago. And I've never forgotten that, because for me, it was It was a hard lesson in just getting started. He wanted a big overnight success instead of testing out his product. Instead of saying, would you buy this, which is like trying to get the perfect idea, he should have actually bought a pair of shoes and tried to make an actual sale, just gotten going, built momentum. He would have learned much faster whether the idea was going to work or not. So I think that if you accept the idea that your first few ideas, the chances are against you, honestly, the chances are against you that your first idea is going to work, or even your fifth or your 10th. The chances of any one of the millions of ideas that you have succeeding, the chances of that particular idea succeeding, odds are it's not going to happen. So what you need to do is you need to build up a way that it doesn't matter if you have small failures. You've got to become resilient, because most of what success is these days is experimentation. Trying things, seeing if they work, and building on and capitalizing on your success. So I thought as a really good example, it would be good to look at a brand like Lego, which was faced with devastating failure in 2005. If you look at the trends globally, the trends aren't on the side of your traditional toy makers. Everything's virtualizing. So you've got virtual apps, like iPhone games and tablet apps that even 2- and 3-year-olds can get going on, So Lego is in a place where they were actually losing money in 2005. And that was because they had a product that their whole brand was attached to that was on its way out. So they needed to rethink what they were doing, because otherwise their business would have failed. So now if you look at what Lego is, and by the way, they were rated the world's most powerful brand this year, 2015 world's most powerful brand. If you look at what they are now, they're TV games, they're theme parks, they're hotels, and they're even consulting and business methodologies. So Lego is much more than little plastic blocks. It's a movie that you see, it's an experience that you have. And in fact, if you go a little bit deeper to find out from anyone who works at Lego what is Lego, they'll tell you it isn't a product, it's a philosophy. And it comes from two things. It's a Danish company. It means legot, to play well. And the second thing is to connect well with each other. So I play well and I connect. In other words, I build social relationships and I build the world of my imaginations through these games that I play, through these toys that I have. And if you're a parent, that's really important, because if you've ever gone into a toy store, you're faced with thousands of choices, a whole array of different products. But Lego is still the top-selling toy brand. So parents aren't just buying little plastic bricks. What they're buying for their children is imagination, remix the world as you see it, play productively, don't muck around. Their parents are hoping when they buy these products, the TV games, the bricks, the toys, the robots that Lego sells, they're hoping that their kids are going to have productive play or even more social play, and that's the product. It's more of a philosophy. And so it's ever evolving. Simon Sinek gave an incredible TED Talk that I highly recommend, that's been incredibly influential in the field of marketing in which I work, but also the field of leadership. And he says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I think Lego is a great example of that. No one's got a craving or a deep desire for more plastic bricks in their lives. What they're looking is for productive play, meaningful play. Parents are trying to stimulate imagination, to be inspired in that way. And if you look at any of the great brands of our day, they nail this. Apple isn't just selling you a phone. They're selling you an iPhone. And if you ask Apple what an iPhone is, they're not going to tell you about the specs first and foremost. They're going to induct you into their design philosophy. And everything that we do, we challenge the status quo. We don't just follow the rest. How we do it is through simple, minimalist design. What we do, the product, is increasingly diverse. MP3 players, they're moving into cars and autos, laptops. But it's more the philosophy that you're buying into than the actual device, isn't it? That's why when Huawei or Hisense come up with phones that are every bit as good as Apple's phones, we choose still to desire the brand versus just the product. And it's never too early to start thinking about your business in this way. In fact, it's going to make everything that you do a lot simpler and clearer. So for when you get going, and for those of you who have got going, I want you to think about every aspect of your business like a little piece of Lego. All right? Everything, your finance, your marketing, your product, every one of those things, every aspect of your business, even you, is just like a little piece of Lego. On its own, it isn't anything special. All right, maybe you are. But everything else isn't necessarily special on its own. It's how you combine those things with your vision that makes them special. That's what makes something special. And it's impossible, if you've ever played with something like Lego, it's impossible to create something simple or complex unless you have a vision or an idea of what you're building. You know, if you want to build a house, you have a vision in Lego of what that house is going to do. You might even construct a drawing of that house before you start building it. And once you've got that vision, you can determine how many bricks you need, how many pieces, and you can decide where they all fit in. And I'm telling you that you're going to waste your time building a business unless you work as hard on the vision as you do on every other aspect of your business. So that's why you have this piece of paper in front of you called your guiding principle. And this is a really simple little sheet that I put together to help myself, because I burnt out constantly in my 20s. In fact, I had to drop out of UTT the first time because I tried to launch a business that ended up failing and sucking up all of my savings. So I literally had like no bucks to pay for rent, for fees, for anything else. And I got so frustrated with the failure that I thought I had to go back to first principles. And all of my mentors were telling me, it doesn't matter how hard you work if you don't have a vision, if you don't have a purpose. But I found that really hard to get together. So I put together this simple step-by-step process. You'll see it's in nice little Lego blocks for you to help me, who's probably like, or I was a bit of a leadership imbecile, that made it easy enough even for me to put together a clear vision. I can tell you it has made all the difference for me and for my company. So what I'd like to do just for a start is I'd like you to write down on your little spreadsheet, because we're going to make it practical now. I'm going to talk you through actually building your guiding principle, your vision, your mission, all of that. We're going to do it right now. So what I want you to do is I just want you to start with a project if you don't have a business. So the project could be getting through this term. It could be your project could be this business idea that you've got bubbling up. It honestly actually doesn't matter, but I just want you to write down there your name. I want you to write down the project that you want to work on, and we're going to build your guiding principle or your vision for that project. So guys, what we're going to do with this is, the reason that we're doing it together is I want you to be able to answer questions. So there's no hand in on this. This is completely for you. I hope that it's something that you'll continue to use through your business career, whether you decide to take a job or launch into your own business. So I want you to ask questions as we go, just to make sure that you understand everything as we go along. So let's get straight into it. So start by writing down your project, something that you want to work through. So literally it could be something as simple as, my project is I want to get through this term in style. I want to get through this term like a boss, or I want to launch my new project like a boss. And I mean like a boss because this is a leadership class. So whatever it is that you want to do like a boss, write that down as your project right now. Don't overthink it. The answer will come from your gut. Just believe that'll happen. So, cool. We're going to start with your main community. All right. So, if you're talking about a course or a class in your project, your main community could be your peers, or it could be your professors, as an example. If I'm talking about a digital media and marketing business like mine, my main community is going to be the Cape Town online media and marketing community. All right, so it's a specific set of people that you want to serve. And the reason why it's important to be super specific with this is that you want to have direct and close contact with your community. When I say community, I mean blood and flesh community, the people that you're going to physically interact with or digitally directly interact with, the kind of people that would join your Facebook group or come to your physical meetup. Like this here, this is the core community of the Upstarts, all right? So when your core community, it's who's the people that'll be true believers in this project? And write that down. So online we say, just to give you a bit of background, online we say, 1% of people create all the products, services, and articles that we read online every day. 9% of people like, comment, share, and participate in that. 90% of people are just passive consumers of that. All businesses make their money from the 90% of consumers, but they can only get to their consumers through the people that like, comment, share, and spread their ideas. Your core community is these people, not the people that you're going to make all your money from, or all the people that you need to influence. It's the people that are going to spread your message, that are going to be the likers, the participators, the true believers. And it could be really small, like Jesus had 12. The apostles. That's what I'm saying. They're the 9% that spread the message. Okay, so and so don't be scared to start too small. So go ahead. I'm going to give you a minute. Write down your core community. You can go back and change these things all the time, but the reason why I wanted to start with that is, for example, with me, my core community with my business is advertising agency leaders. So I can literally put a list together, and there's about 25 people that are super influential in my industry in Cape Town. I can meet with all of them. I can test my ideas with them. I can get direct feedback from them. And if they believe in what I'm doing, then they'll spread the word of what I'm doing. So that's my core community. So now, once we've identified that core community, we've got to think, what problems are you solving for these people? So let me talk a little bit about problem solving. So picture's a little bit hazy there, but this guy in the picture here is Matt Mullenweg, and you probably never heard of him, but I bet you've heard of his product. He's the founder of a software called WordPress. Heard of it? Who's heard of WordPress? Just show of hands. Yeah, all right, cool. So clearly this guy's done well. It's the most popular website building application online. So most of the websites online are built by WordPress. So he loves Cape Town, and he comes here often. And when he's here, I often drive him around or take him to events and that kind of thing. So I play chauffeur, and in return, he gives me business wisdom and advice. And one of the first things that I asked him was, he was about 24 when I first met him, and at that stage, he was worth hundreds of millions of dollars already. And I said to him, what is one piece of advice that you have for me? Like you've achieved so much in such a short time. Like, what's one thing that'll help me up my game? And without hesitating, and this is why it was so on point, it was clearly like such a top of mind thing for him. He said, don't be a vitamin, be an aspirin. Don't be a vitamin, be an aspirin. In other words, like, vitamins are nice to have. Like, we all know that we must take more vitamins, but we don't run out in the middle of the night to buy vitamins. We don't, like, at 2 a.m. go, oh, I need vitamins. But if you've got a headache, or if you wake up hungover, you're going to run for the aspirin. And you're going to fork out whatever money you have to get yourself out of pain. And that's what he means in business. So no matter what you're selling, position it as an aspirin. All right, so if you think about it, even with things that seem like they're nice to have, or even like you might assume that they solve problems, think about these social network technologies that we use all the time. Things like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and so on. All of those things might seem really important, but no one wants more technology in their lives. All that we want to do is we want more convenience. We want more convenient ways to find jobs, more convenient ways to connect with our friends, more convenient ways to share and express ourselves and our ideas. All right, so I've mapped this to Maslow's hierarchy of needs here to make it real. That's what they're solving. So LinkedIn isn't selling you software to manage your contact. They're selling you career opportunities. They're taking you out of career pain, basically. That's what they're doing. All right, so, and so on for all of the other technology. So when I say, what problem are you solving? Let me put it another way. I'll tell you a story. So I was once in a talk with the marketing director of South African breweries. You know the guys, yeah? They make Castle and Black Label. So he asked a group of his marketing managers, he said to them, guys, who's our main competition? All right, so who do you think South African breweries' main competition is for their beers? Who do you think? We're talking Black Label, Castle, these are SAB breweries' beers. Who do you think is some key competition, yeah? Ooh, that's an interesting perspective. You say the government, yeah? Very interesting. Okay, interesting. I wouldn't say competitors, that would be a challenge, but he's thinking laterally. All right, so every time one of his marketing managers put up their hand, they said Heineken, he would say wrong. They would say Windhoek, he would say wrong. They would say Corona, wrong. Every time they said a competing beer, he said wrong, 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 wrong. Eventually, no one had any more beers to come up with. So he said our main competition, Vodacom and MTN. And I was like, what? Like, these guys are selling beers. And he said, people want to be social. They want to connect with their friends. He said they used to spend $300 on beers. Now they spend 150 on beers, 150 on airtime. So that they can connect with their friends. He said, unless we position ourselves as a social brand, we're not going to carry on winning market share. All right, and that's really important. And we'll see again and again how the world's best brands solve a deeper problem than the product appears to. All right, so what's the deeper human need that you're getting to? And I would say that Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a good place to start oftentimes. But take a minute and think beyond the product, what problem am I solving? Like my friend with the shoes might have been solving a financial problem, a speed problem, a style problem, or anything else. But at essence, what is the human need that you're resolving? The thing that you're taking people out of pain for. Go ahead. This is often a challenging one, but please go ahead. Give it a shot. All right, obviously this is much easier when you start thinking about social impact challenges, by the way. Obviously, that's what Gina just whispered in my ear. She was like, social impact, which makes it a lot easier, because social impact challenges are so often linked to people's pain, where you're removing them from that context of suffering or discomfort and so on. And so just keep that absolutely clear and top of mind as you operate. All right, the next is, what is your mission? So a mission is very kind of talked about in business. When you do a business plan, one of the obvious things that you state is our mission. So Raymond Ackerman, who founded Pick n Pay, instead of saying our mission is to sell as many groceries as possible, their mission, he stated, is to serve the consumer. So to serve the South African consumer, and that means that we'll battle for the best prices, we'll work harder for the best service. And he says, and I love this quote, he says, you're not in business to maximize your profit, you're in business to maximize your mission. In other words, your profit is a byproduct of you fulfilling your mission, which is to serve the customer. You'll make all the money you want as long as you're on mission. Google's mission is to make all the world's knowledge and information freely accessible to anyone in the world. As long as Google is hitting that mission, they can make as much money as they want. And they are. They're making billions. It's the companies that are clear about their mission that state that. So in your mission, what are you trying to do with this? Are you trying to ensure that in everything that we do, we want to make sure that people have easier journeys? Or what are you trying to solve? Like, what is the mission in everything that you do? So if you were an army general, your mission from A to B is this. What is that thing? Go ahead and give it a crack. All right, so a mission like that is often easy to understand intellectually, but if you want to lead, you need to take it to a more emotional place. Let me put this in marketing terms. We all know that we should buy celery when we go to the supermarket, but we keep buying Kit Kat or whatever chocolate. Or maybe this is just me. I know I should buy celery. I really do. I know I should buy spinach and celery and carrots and all of these wholesome things, but whenever I'm at the supermarket, chocolate just calls louder. And I tell myself emotional stories. I tell myself, I shouldn't have the chocolate, but I deserve it. I've worked hard, and I need this for myself. And I'm going to have this chocolate, and tomorrow I'm going to run, or, and tomorrow basically what I'm telling you is we might know the right thing to do, but there's a much deeper part of our brain that's driven by our emotions, and the emotions win time and time and time again. So great leaders know this. And when we look at great leaders, they might have their paperwork in the background done. They'll know the Constitution backwards. They'll be superb at business. But when they speak, it's not dry and technical. They're speaking to our hearts. Think about all of our great leaders. They've done that. And we love leaders that make us feel stuff. And it's the same when it comes to missions and visions. So if you look at a brand like Coca-Cola as an example, Coca-Cola wants to put a Coke within arm's reach of everyone in the world. And if you ask them what their mission is, it's going to be something like spreading happiness. So in everything that you do, Coca-Cola really believes that they're spreading happiness in the world. I heard a podcast with the CEO of Coca-Cola speaking, and he says, we're delivering 3 billion little moments of happiness every month. And he means like this is a little moment of happiness. And the person who was interviewing him said, you're delivering 3 billion little moments of diabetes every month. And he said, yes, if you think Coca-Cola is a product. In other words, if you think that Coca-Cola is just sugar water, that's cool. And he said, but people reach out for a Coca-Cola, or they buy a Coca-Cola for their family dinners for far different reasons than the fact that they like the taste or that they like sugar water. They believe that the product is associated with good times, with happiness, with sharing. It's all of those things. And Coca-Cola's always been good in all of their communications on showing us that vision. Showing us what a world would be like if we all joined hands. Showing us what a world would be like if we were all kind of people. That's all that they're doing. They're showing us. That's what you call a vision. Martin Luther King talked a lot about the Constitution, but when he said that I had a dream speech, he painted a perspective, a poetic perspective of little boys and girls of different colors going to school together, holding hands, playing together. He described the vision, not the plan. All right, so that's what we mean by vision. It's taking the plan or the mission statement and saying, what would it look like if that was to happen? What would it look like if Apple's mission is to put simple, beautiful products on everyone's desks? What would it look like? And then Steve Jobs might say, it's a sense of seamlessness when you work. It's the technology not getting in the way of your imagination. And that's something you can buy into. That's far more interesting than your mission. So leaders need a vision. And please go ahead and think, what would it look like if your mission was fulfilled? Paint a picture for me. Write it down there. We're going to move on to values now. Values are another thing that seems soft, but for me, they're so important. You know, I read a biography of Benjamin Franklin, and I saw that he chose what he would call a virtue to live with every week. So he would, for example, choose a virtue of frugality. And he would wake up every day and he would say, today, I'm going to live by the virtue of frugality. So he's not going to be wasteful in anything that he does. Or another week he might say, I'm going to live this week by the virtue of generosity. So in everything that he does, he looks for opportunities to be more generous. All right? Those virtues that we're guided by, if you imagine living every day like that, like today I'm going to wake up and the value or the virtue that's going to guide my every step will be honesty. I cannot tell even a small lie today. Or my value is going to be style. In everything that I do, I'm not just going to walk. I'm going to have swag, for example. All right, that's what we call a value. So a lot of companies have these value statements like integrity, communication, respect, excellence, and they get written once and then discarded. We don't think about them anymore. Enron, in fact, who went bankrupt because their leaders were fraudulent, so they were fraudsters and they were stealing money, actually had these values, integrity, communications, respect, and excellence, chiseled in marble in their lobby. And the leaders who were guilty of fraud and misconduct, who went to jail for that, had to walk past those values every single day. The companies that kick ass in the long run are the ones that define their virtues, the ones that you're going to be guided by every single day when you go into work, and they actually judge themselves and their people on those virtues. So, for example, if you have a virtue to operate with integrity, even if it's inconvenient, for example, I had a piece of software that I bought that I had a code and I could have shared it, and it was an expensive piece of software. I could have shared it with everyone in my company, but one of our values is in everything that we do it with integrity. it was inconvenient to have to buy individual licenses for everyone in the business to use that software, but we did it. And time again, if you make every single decision that you do with integrity, what happens in business is that people notice, and you get a reputation for being someone with integrity, or any other of the virtues that you decide to do. So generally speaking, these become your mantras and your way of operating in business, and they're critical if you want to lead a team. So values make how you do your work different to other companies. And most companies aren't guided enough by this, but the world's greatest companies are. By the way, I read a piece by a designer at Apple, and he said, I was a designer at all the other tech companies, and he said, I had the same skills, but he said, I stepped into Apple, and this is a company that lives by the virtue or the value of design. And I found myself so much more effective in design in that context where everyone valued it. I was able to achieve more, and that's the point of defining your values. So please think about what are the virtues that would guide you in your next project. You know, is it efficiency? Is it focus? Is it inspiration? Is it design? Is it clarity? Is it flair? Anything, just what's meaningful to you. What are the virtues that are going to guide your next project? And choose one or two or three. So finally, just to wrap up, you've got a big block there, and the last 3 blocks are the most important. So you've got 3 blocks there, and they are, what are you for, what are you against, and what's your big ideal? And I'm going to deal with them all at the same time. So great leaders always give us a sense of what we're up against. If you think about any movie that's really interesting, or any book that's fascinating and that draws you in, you always have a clear idea of who the enemy is, who you're up against. And the best companies also do this, and the best leaders also do this for us. So instead of just producing shoes, you're against the enemy, which is bad style, or something like that, or rip-off shoes, or we're supporting locally made goods, or whatever it is. It's the what are you for and what are you against. So if you look at brands like Dove soap, for example, it's just a soap bar. We can get soap absolutely anywhere, but if you look at all of their communications and everything that Dove does, they want women to feel more confident about themselves. They want to be the champion of true beauty, and their enemy, what they're against, is false stereotypes. If you look at Scrabble, they're not just a board game, and everything Scrabble does, they want to make learning new words more fun and social. What they're against currently, because it's an ever-evolving enemy for them, is text speak. So they're fighting shrinking teenage vocabularies. So for example, if you worked at Scrabble, the company, it might not be the best place to use emoticons or emojis instead of full sentences. They stand for full sentences and interesting words, all right? So they've got their enemy, what they're for and against. When you write down your for and against, or most companies just don't do this, you're clear about what you're for. You might be all for the most efficient ways to get goods from Y to Z. What you're against is going to be something, it's going to be linked to that pain point that you identified. It's like, what we're against is the little things that inconvenience you every day. And everyone can go, yeah, that's a pain point in my life. I believe in what this company is doing. Are you with me on that? So go to the problem that you're solving, and maybe that can be a point of inspiration for the pain that you take people out of. Your guiding principle then is the summation of all of these things, and I just want you to complete this sentence, and this can be your homework. My project name, so write my project name, whatever your project was, makes the world a better place by. My project makes the world a better place by. Make sense? That guiding principle, you put it on everything that you do. Your accounting, your finance, your communications. It's the one sentence that you use every day, and you say, we don't do anything in our business unless it achieves that, unless it speaks to that guiding principle. So, guys, just in conclusion, I heard a brilliant story about the British Olympic cycling team coach. And when he started, Britain had never won the Tour de France. And he said, I'm going to spend the next 4 years focusing on this one event. And how I'm going to do it is I'm going to look for all the small ways that my cyclists can gain little advantages. And he called this the aggregation of marginal gains. Every place we can find 1% improvement. So he gave them better pillows to sleep on, and so they had slightly better sleep. He adjusted the angle of their seats, so they were 1% more comfortable on the road. He used better massage oil, so their muscles recovered 1% quicker. And the result was he didn't just win one event in 4 years. He won the Olympics, the Tour de France, and the other two major titles in cycling in 1 year. And I think that if you're clear about what you want to achieve, it's exactly the same. All those little advantages that you aim to have in your life, if they point towards one thing, over time, that can lead to massive advantages.